right, campus. So another universal strategy, and this is the third one we're going to go over, is the annotation of text. And so what we really want to start with is this idea of how do you even know that your students have read the text? I know in the past, some of us maybe asked a couple of questions, or we borrowed some questions from History Alive, for example, or the end of the unit comprehension questions. But do you really know that the student read the text to get that information, or did they just find it on the internet or their friend who's trying to help them out? We don't know, right? We don't know, and we don't know if there's evidence unless we actually see it. And can you tell if your student is going to be able to engage with a post-reading assignment, assessment, or a project? And you won't know until after that assessment happens if they really read the text. So what we're going to talk about is annotating for purpose. And why we do this is so that students can use these skills between and throughout content areas so that they can access a variety of texts. This is when we ask students to read like a scientist, a historian, a writer, a mathematician, or whatever the discipline needs. And we will go over the steps for text annotation today. And this is a great tool for you and students to practice reading and really show what they know. So the article we had, and I'm just going to click out of it for 2 seconds, is that digital detox article. But you want to skip down to sections 3 and 4. So section 3 is called Try a Substitute, and 4 is Other Ways to Change Screen Time Habits. And so what you're going to do, you are going to do a pre-read strategy, so you don't even have to read. And this is really safe to start with students with something really simple that's not asking them to deep read right now. As you're just scanning sections 3 and 4, you're just going to circle words that might be tricky for you or that you think your teacher would put on a test or a quiz. So this one, for example, says compliance. So we're just going to circle that with our pencil. So pause the video right now. Go back to your article, look at sections 3 and 4, and just circle words that you think might be vocabulary words or words that trip you up. So I would definitely circle metaphorical. Now, if you notice, I'm not reading the text. I'm just skimming, and I'm circling words like inspiration until my teacher tells me that it's time to move to the next step. All right. This is a point where I would ask the students, okay, which words really tripped you up? Is there one or two that I can share out loud with the class? And so you could share these out loud, ask students to ask, and to annotate in the margin what the words mean if they need help getting through those words, okay? You might not have time to do every single word, but I would say pick 3 or 4 that students have volunteered that they need help with, and then suggest to students, if you're still getting stuck on words, let's go ahead. You can give it a Google once we're annotating. If you need to translate it into your language when we're doing our annotation steps, you have time to do that. Now, the actual first read is where you're thinking about the purpose of the text. So what is this text about? What is it that you want your students to learn from this piece of text? If you're a student and your teacher has not given you the purpose or the essential question, you're going to read the sections and then you're going to say, what is it my teacher wanted me to learn? I would, the first couple times you're doing this practice, give the students the essential question or the purpose. So for this article, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to let you struggle, just like some of our students do, especially your avid kids. They struggle with this, and then they get used to the practice of creating the essential question. So you are going to read sections 3 to 4. And as you're reading, you're going to think about, okay, what was the purpose? Why did my teacher give me this text? So we're in digital detox. You're reading sections 3 and 4, and you're going to come up with the purpose of the text. So pause the video so you can read sections 3 and 4. All right, so what was the purpose of reading this text? I think this text, the essential question, and you can add it to the top of your paper. The essential question, I think, from what I'm reading, is what ways can I balance my phone use, and are there strategies to do so? Go ahead and add that to your article just like we did, because that's going to really help you with the next couple of steps. So go ahead and copy our purpose. Again, if your students are just starting this, you give them the EQ or the purpose. If they're getting used to knowing how to solve the EQ, then you're going to have them figure it out. All right, so now we know our purpose. So get out your handy dandy highlighter. Put your pencils away. We don't need those right now. Just put it to the side. Don't let it tempt you. You are going to read it now a second time, and you are going to highlight information that answers the essential question or the author's purpose. Now, for students, it was a good idea that you had them write the essential question up here because they can go back and look at it and say, oh man, does that answer the essential question? Because if you don't have them answer the essential question, they are going to highlight every single thing on the paper, right? And so this really guides them to focus in on what really is important. You know, sometimes teachers say, oh, just highlight what's important. They don't know what's important. And so this essential question is really going to guide them. Also, you know, I tell kids, ask your teacher for the EQ or the purpose. If your advocates are giving you a hard time, it's because they're in the practice of asking that. They also, though, can try to figure it out on their own. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So take a minute to read through the text. And you are going to then, and we're only looking at sections 3 and 4, you're only going to answer or highlight things that answer our essential question. What ways can I balance my phone use, and are there strategies to do so? When you spot those, then you're going to highlight them, okay? So take a minute and do that. All right, your third read. This is literally the third time you've read the text, okay? You are going to annotate with questions, comments, and connections. That means as you go through your text, as you go through the parts you highlighted, so let's pretend you highlighted this section right here. With your pen or pencil in the margin, you're going to write a question, comment, or connection to that what you highlighted. So for example, and I'm just doing this digitally, but my question is, it says, it's crucial to pick something that makes you feel good. It's like trying to cut down, if you're me, on salt and vinegar chips. Okay, I connect with this because I have a hard time giving up things that make me happy. And that makes me happy. And so it's going to be hard for me, just like the author said in this text. Okay. And so you're going to take a minute right now. You're going to write questions, comments, and connections in the margin from the parts that you highlighted. So take a minute and do that right now. All right, did you come up with a couple of questions, comments, and connections? Your students will too, and this gives you a good opportunity to ask them, hey, did any of you have any questions about the text? Also, if you collect the text at the end of the day and you notice repeat questions, so everybody's really confused about this part in section 4. Okay. If you notice every kid is asking similar questions, that means you need to tomorrow address those questions. You can say to the kids, hey, I noticed everyone was really confused about this. Let's talk about it really quick. And so that way they have clarification, because oftentimes, you know, students will sit there and just act like they get it and they don't really get it. Or if they're an avid, they'll bring that question for TRF, but they're getting an advantage which other kids aren't getting. And so they get the opportunity to ask where the rest of your class might not. So make sure you pay attention to the questions that students are asking in the margin so that you can really dig deep and find out if there are things that they need to know before the end of unit assessment, quiz, or project. And now our next little thing, this is post-reading, summarizing what they learned. So I would tell your students, you know, it must be 4 to 5 sentences. Definitely the advocates are used to that. You might start smaller with 2 to 3 sentences. I'd give them 5 to 6 minutes to do their summary, okay? Some kids are going to be faster than others, and that's okay. We set a timer, and as you progress throughout the year, you know, they'll get better at it. You can give them kind of a sentence starter. So this article was teaching me to. And so if you noticed in this article, there's not a lot of space to write a summary. So you could have students take a sticky note and write their summary on the sticky note and stick it onto the page, or if they have space down here, that's fine too. Your advocates know how to attach a summary sticky note or a second piece of paper with their summary. So I tell students, your summary really is just taking what you highlighted and paraphrasing it or summing it up into the main points. Don't rewrite the article again or reread the article again. You've already read it 3 times. You should be able to sum up what happened in the article and make sure it answers the essential question. So take about a minute now, well, actually 2 minutes, 3 minutes to summarize what you learned from the article and write it on the actual article. Now look at your article. Okay, this is not really our article, but this is an example from Avid. Look at what you notice about this article. It's not this plain white page that we started out with, right? Like, you totally can tell your student has an essential question. You can tell they have questions on the margin. You can tell they have words that they actually defined. This kid had 3 of them. And then they attached a summary to the end. If I read the summary, I can tell if my students really knock this out of the ballpark or if we need to go back and revisit this information. So now our closing question is, how do you know if they really read the text? Is there evidence? Hopefully you're saying to yourself, well, yeah, I can totally tell this kid read this, right? And will they be able to engage with the post-reading assignment, assessment, or project? Sure. If you tell them, let's make a one-pager about this article, they have everything they need right here to understand and draw. Even your MLs, they're going to be able to have 3 words that they can put on a one-page poster that they kind of know about the text. They hopefully have a quick summary, even if it's in their own language, to tell you that they understood what they read. Okay? And the last part of today are the next steps. And Lissa went over this with all of us, but instead of holding a meeting for Learning Center 7, we're asking teachers to observe a department colleague between February 16th and March 15th, and to reflect on how they're seeing literacy being integrated into instruction. We are going to provide a protocol to use during the observations, and this will support the departmental conversation on April 5th, where each department will define what it means to be a reader, writer, speaker, and listener in their content. So Liz is going to send us more information about that.